They talk about suburban women. They're going to love me so much. They're going to say, oh, I wish we had that guy back.
Suburban women, they're going to wish I got that guy back. I'm joined by Anat Shenker-Osorio, expert on strategic messaging, how to get you back on the show. When Donald Trump says that about suburban women, you're going to love me and like that, as someone who's been a leader in the field of strategic messaging, what's your reaction?
I mean, my reaction is, what did I do wrong to you that you made me watch that? I didn't know it was like that between us. I'd at least like the joy of having pissed you. I need to know why I pissed you off. That feels mean. I mean, I think that, you know, there's the question of how does that play for his particular fan base? And of course, for his particular fan base, they're singing along to the lyrics of whatever tune. There is no kind of ability to assess or issue judgment. I think for any person who is not within the QAnon whole, methinks he doth protest too much, right? If suburban women were really finding you so magically delicious, would you need to be asserting it so strongly? And in fact, I think that that in particular demonstrates his fear and his own acknowledgement of a weakness, and that he's calling out that cohort of people precisely because someone somewhere he must have caught wind of the fact that that is where he's slipping. I mean, that is one of the places where he's slipping.
You know, another place that he is slipping, it seems to be in a cognitive way. And, you know, he gives these rambling speeches where he calls Biden Obama, where he just starts saying random words, and he's not really even doing sentences anymore. It's just like when I watch these events, I'm like, why isn't the media covering that? He's literally just saying a bunch of garbled words and sounds, and it's really, really strange, and it's playing out right before us like this. And here's, I guess, his way of trying to address it. And I will spare you based on what you said when I showed you that other clip, because throughout this speech that he gave in CPAC, I would say there was probably a good portion, the majority of the time, he was talking about not being cognitively impaired over and over again, and talking about how he's a rambler and he's the greatest rambler ever. And that was his main message at CPAC, not about issues. I'll give you just one example here, and I apologize. Here, play this clip.
All right.
They'll say, he rambled. Nobody can ramble like this. Nobody. If they did, they wouldn't even try. You know what? They go step by step, and they would never get off that sucker. They go step by step. But what happened?
What do you make of that?
Yeah, so I think what is so challenging for us, and my guess is for the people listening to us right now more broadly, is that the purpose of the Authoritarian project, the purpose of the strongmen, is really to demonstrate that the rules don't apply to him. And I'm using him because it applies in this particular case, and most of the time it is indeed a him. And so the idea is, and you know, that excerpt that you just showed is an excellent example of it. What he's essentially saying there is, everyone else, they are required to give a speech by going in some sort of logical stair-step fashion wherein they actually make some coherent sense. And that's the expectation of everyone. I, however, the meta message is, get to flout expectations. I, however, get to make my own rules. I, however, can speak how I want to speak, including incoherency, and by extension can govern how I want to govern, can win how I want to win. And because the sales pitch of the authoritarian dictator, of the strongman, of the autocracy is precisely, hey, the status quo isn't working for you. Hey, the way things that operate right now are undesirable to you, and I'm going to create a new thing. I am going to create a new norm. I know it sounds perverse, but him making no sense is actually proof that he doesn't have to follow the rules, even of kind of the basics of conversation. The most standard social norms don't even apply to him. And that's actually part of the appeal.
Let me show you this. So President Biden went on the late night show the other day, and here's how he kind of responded to the question about his age, and kind of brought it not just about his age, but the comparison between himself and Donald Trump. Here, let's play this clip.
You got to take a look at the other guy. He's about as old as I am, but he can't remember his wife's name.
Yeah.
And number one. Number two, it's about how old your ideas are. Look, I mean, this is a guy who wants to take us back. He wants to take us back on Roe v. Wade. He wants to take us back on a whole range of issues that are 50, 60 years. They've been solid American positions.
What do you make of that?
So I have two answers. I have the answer from the vantage point of Biden being the messenger for Biden, and then I have a different answer for the rest of us in the world who are, by definition, not Biden and answering questions about Biden. From the vantage point of what Biden needs to do when he is the messenger about Biden, which is inescapable because he is himself and he is conforming to a reality-based world, thank goodness. I think that was a super smart and solid answer. It was moving away from personal characteristics to agenda. And that is a very, very important lesson that I'm going to broaden out in a minute when I move away from, if you're not actually literally Biden talking about Biden, how is it slightly different? I think it's extraordinarily important to broaden out to what is this person going to do? And I think that was a very clever turn of phrase, not how old you are, but how old your ideas are. We see consistently in testing that this idea of they want to take us backwards. And then the other phrase that we see consistently is they want to control us and decide our futures for us. This idea that what MAGA wants to do is control and move us backwards. Voters understand that. They buy that. It feels descriptive. It feels indicative. It's a very quick shorthand. You can apply it to everything from dismantling Obamacare to blocking IVF, no matter their protestations to the contrary, that's indeed precisely what they not only want to do, but are in fact doing presently. So I think that's very clever. I think when you're other than Biden and you are talking about Biden and you're confronting this age question, there's a couple of things I want to signal. The first is that turning it back around, and he only did this momentarily, and then he moved on to, like I said, that clever clip, it's about the age of your ideas. When you rejoin, well, Biden's old with, yeah, but Trump is old, the meta message that you are sending unhelpfully is, let's evaluate people on the basis of their age. Let's have age be a legitimate criterion. It doesn't work. It just keeps you inside of the frame as much as you want to be able to play that hypocrisy argument. And in general, we find that hypocrisy arguments are not that effective because you're ceding the moral high ground. You're no longer arguing about what is right and desirable. And so more broadly, when you are other than Biden, talking about Biden, which is most of us, you want to move away from any sentence that is Trump is personal characteristic. Trump is a rapist. Trump is corrupt. Trump is a criminal. Because as soon as we do that, what we find in research is that people jump right back at you with Biden is personal characteristic. And whether you think it's fair or unfair, that personal characteristic for too many voters is something that they have misgivings about, or even more strongly, they feel negative about. In contrast, when you talk about Trump will do, you are on much better ground. So the first suggestion is move away from Trump is personal characteristic towards Trump will do action, which is in essence what Biden kind of does with that quip. But the even broader leap that I would encourage folks to make, because remember, there isn't just one race up in November. I think we all know the whole House is up. There are a lot of extraordinarily critical Senate seats, not to mention everything that's going down ballot in our respective states. We have a lot of people to beat. And in many places, the MAGA GOP, MAGA Republicans are pulling ahead of Trump in various congressional races. And so it's really important that we make it about the entire cabal. About the entire mob. That's the word that I want to use. And so what we find most helpful whenever we can is to move away from this being a conversation about this person versus that person, and make it a conversation about which future do you want? Do you want a future in which you'll be able to decide for yourself whether and when you have kids, where you decide for yourself whether and if you join a labor union and have a right to negotiate collectively for better? Do you want a future in which pre-existing conditions is gobbledygook insurance corporation speak, and you can get insured by virtue of just being alive? Do you want a future where your kid is free to learn the truth of your past? Or do you want a future where they have taken away everything and are ruling for the very wealthiest few? When we frame the election as a contest between two conflicting futures, that is when we are on most solid ground, and we are advancing not just the Biden case, but rather the broader vote for Democrats case.
And it's true. And that's when messaging meets the moment. And we are in a very, very serious moment indeed, where, we have we have not only the messaging, but we actually have those ideas of real freedom, as MAGA Republicans are trying to take away that freedom. And I hope you'll come back and join us, more in the future here as we especially approach November. And we'll keep sharing these insights with all of the Meidas Mighty out there. Everybody check out Words to Win By. It's a great podcast hosted by Anat. I really love it. And she goes over all of these points. So thank you so much for joining us, and let's do this again.
Thank you for having me again.
Make sure you hit subscribe. We are on our way to 3 million subscribers, and have a wonderful day.
Hey, Meidas Mighty. Love this report? Continue the conversation by following us on Instagram @MeidasTouch to keep up with the most important news of the day. What are you waiting for? Follow us now.